Long time no video. So welcome back to the channel, guys. So lot to cover, so welcome back. All right, so lots of housekeeping stuff, so let's get this video on the way. First things first, we hit 5,000 subs recently, so thank you guys, thank you everyone who's been here from the beginning, and the new subs. Means a lot. Never thought we'd get to 5,000, but we're here now, so woohoo, the big 5, we hit it. So next up, I guess, is 10,000 subs, and thank you guys are rock stars. So with that being said, let's get on with today's video. So today I'm going to be working on my Subaru. So zoom out a bit. All right, so those of you who are relatively new to the channel, my Subaru is a Subaru Impreza. It's an SGT, Japanese model. It didn't really come with a WRX out of Japan, so it's an SGT, basically a 2-liter twin-scroll turbocharged all-wheel drive, similar to what you guys got in the US and North America and whatnot, but 2-liter. Right, so this car is 100% stock. I bought it bone stock. Only thing I've really done to it is tuning, with the exception of a few things, like here I have a Mac boost solenoid to replace the factory boost solenoid, but for the most part the car is stock intake, stock everything. So the purpose of this video is today I'm going to, well, let me give you the preamble first. So this car's stock use a MAF sensor, so let me get this out of the way. Yes, so this car is from stock, use a MAF sensor, MAF, basically mass airflow sensor. What this basically does, air comes in through here, it gets measured by this sensor, it goes to the turbo, it gets compressed, and the EC uses the signal from this and some other sensors along the engine to calculate the amount of fuel and spark and whatnot required to get your car running good. In my case anyways, I moved away from this system. I'm pretty much not using this system, and I'm using a speed density or a MAP based system, which is manifold air pressure, absolute pressure. Oh shoot, I can't recall what's on a MAP sensor now. MAP sensor, manifold absolute pressure, manifold air pressure, whatever you want to call a MAP sensor. So I am essentially not using this, so my car can run 100% without that. The only thing that I am using this for, the MAF sensor, is it has the air intake temperature, so the temperature of the air entering, and I still use this for the air temperature. So what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to completely delete this, but I need my air temp sensor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a kit. Probably not going to be today because the sun is about to set. So I bought this off eBay. This is just a pigtail. It basically plugs into the factory harness, so I will basically disconnect this. See if I can do it one-handed. Alright, disconnect this. This is going to plug into here, so everything will stay connected. But if I do this, I'll lose the ability to do the air temperature, which is part of the MAF sensor. So I have this. So this is basically a GM air temperature sensor. So what we need to do is screw this on the outlet of the intercooler. And the reason for this is when you do speed density, you actually need to measure the air temperature, but not the air temperature entering here through the intake going through the turbo, because the turbo itself is compressing air. When you compress the air, it heats it up. Compression always heats up the air. The intercooler's job, well, air goes in through here. Let's explain this real quick. Goes through the turbocharger, it compresses it, and then it spits it out through here, goes through the intercooler. The hood scoop on our Subarus then cools the air a bit, and then the cooled air then goes here through the intake track to our intake manifold here. But with us measuring the air temp here, it's wrong, because we actually need to measure the temperature after it's been compressed and intercooled, so we need it here. So this was essentially wrong. I have been using it. It wasn't exactly right, but I'm here to fix this now. So this kit, like I explained, they sell kits like this for way too much money, because it's just a simple connector. This is only a few dollars. This is like $5 or $10 most places. So I'm going to make a harness to basically make this plug and play. I can take this off, at which point I can take off all of that and just put a straight piece of pipe without any filter or whatnot. So I'm about to make that, and I'll pretty much show you how easy it is so you guys can replicate this at home. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is we're gonna place this. This is plastic, so it's very easy to thread this air temp sensor in because it's a brass body. So we need to take off the intercooler and drill and tap a hole on the underside of here, somewhere close to the throttle body, and add this in here. So we'll pick up when we have this off. Alright, so wrapping up for the day, and you can see the underside of the intercooler. Again, water injection nozzle, and we have the, turn on the flash. Okay. Alright, yeah, so we have this here, just needs some cleaning up. So the air temp is tapped in, water nozzle here on the inside, we can see stick it in there, so pretty good. So again, just need to clean out the inside of this and throw everything back on, but we will continue that in the morning. It's the following day, and like I said last night, we have the sensor installed, so now it's just time to test fit. I pretty much eyeballed it when I went to drill the hole for the air temp sensor, but we have more than enough space there. But again, just going to double check it to make sure that it doesn't foul against anything, and we're going to wrap it up with some of the wiring. Okay, so intercooler is back on, and as you can see here on the underside, I can see my water meth nozzle, and the IAT fits with more than enough space to spare. So now it's just a matter of doing a little bit of wiring and should be all set. And before I throw this in, so here's the finished product. So this end plugs into the MAF connector, as I said. So on this end, top side, first one is the IAT signal, second one is the sensor ground, and it just goes to the connector, and this will just go to our IAT sensor, which I already installed on the intercooler. It's worth mentioning that the center pin on this one here is 12 volts ground, and the other one is sensor ground and a MAF signal that would normally go back to the ECU. You need to put some electric tape, or if you're using a pigtail anyway, some electric tape or some heat shrink or something to insulate the end of that. You do not want this touching any metal surfaces, so I'll do that in a bit, and then go ahead and hook up everything. And we will need some changes to the ECU, the calibration, that is, because this is a Subaru. Obviously it doesn't know what to do with the signal from a GM IAT sensor, so we will need to calibrate the tune a little bit for that, and should be gravy after that. Alright, so before we continue, I just thought I'd show you guys. So again, part of removing the MAF sensor out of the chain completely is that the stock is still looking for it. So you can see I have a P002 MAF sensor low circuit, so it's not getting any voltage on the MAF sensor pin, and we also have a code for the IAT sensor. So IAT, again, like I mentioned, has to be recalibrated. The MAF sensor, the code has to be disabled for that, since we will not be feeding it any MAF sensor voltage or signal, so that code has to be disabled. Okay, so on the ECU side, you have to change your MAF scaling. So hopefully you can see this. Feel free to, not your MAF, sorry, your IAT sensor scaling. Feel free to screenshot and pause the video or whatnot if you need to. Right, so when you have that in and flashed in, here's something I thought I would mention to you. So if you go into ROM reader, alright, so going into ROM reader, if your air temp sensor is scaled appropriately, here's what you would see. You would see with a car that has not run for the day. Turn this so you guys don't get this glare. So my coolant temp is roughly, well, not roughly, 26 degrees Celsius. So the car is dead cold, has not run for the day. And my air temp is around 1 degree higher, which is expected because the water takes a little bit more energy to heat up. So within a degree or 2 Celsius of each other. But this one, you also need to be mindful of that. We do not have the MAF sensor connected anymore. So the ECU is expecting a 0 to 5 volt reading from the MAF. So if it's disconnected, remember the wire is just capped off. You will have this code. So it's P0102. So this is just a check engine light that you will get because we no longer have the MAF signal going to the ECU. So you simply just go into your tune again, just turn off this code, and you should be gravy. So one more step, and then we will get to fire it up. All right, so I already flashed that on. So now we will go ahead and then we'll try to start the car for the first time. Again, should be pretty easy. Nothing really should happen. So there we go. Okay, so there we go. So we have the car. All right, so what happened, you must have heard it. It stumbled a little bit. So what I did was, when I was cleaning out the intercooler, I used a little bit of gas. So that must have dripped into the car. So it caused a temporary rich condition. So those of you who a little bit quick, you would have caught that. But for the most part, you can see now coolant temp is going up, air temp is staying about the same. That is good. That will heat up after a while. So car is doing what it's supposed to do. So let me just show you the engine bay now. So as you can see, MAF sensor is no longer being used. IAT sensor is coming. We're getting a true account of the air entering the engine now. So actually what is at the outlet of the intercooler. And that's about it for the actual wiring and stuff part. So now I have a little bit of tweaking, some, how would I put it? Some crutches that I did in my tune because of where my air temp sensor was coming from. But now that it's accurate now, I will go ahead and tweak that, and then we'll probably go for it. So it's the following day, and like I said, I'm going to take it out for a drive. So for the most part, nothing should really change with that. Subtle differences, I guess, depends on how the car was tuned previously. So what happens is with the air temp, there are compensations for the air temp, and because of the position of the air temp sensor being in the stock location, as in the MAF sensor, you would have to do something. So it will further tune off a little bit, not a terrible amount, but for the most part, I'm very much curious to see the actual air temps of the car when it goes into boost. I know what these intercoolers do on this car, but this specific one I have no knowledge of specifically. So what I want to see is when it goes into boost, how much the air temps go up by compared to other stock top mount cars. Again, small turbo, it should go up really hot. I figure maybe easily 10 degrees above ambient. It should be able to go up in boost cars. Small turbo, small intercooler. But it does have the injection, the ethanol injection, what you would call MEF injection, but I'm using ethanol. So it'll be curious to see, very interesting to see. The difference is my injection is after my air temp sensor, so it shouldn't affect my sensor at all. So yeah, so lots of data to go through. I'm genuinely curious as to my own car, what it does. I have a pretty good idea what it's gonna do, but let's see. Alright, so about to do one test, just to test out the newfound data of this car. So I'm going to test the intercooler efficiencies with this car. So small intercooler, stock intercooler, very small turbo. So it's a recipe for high intake temps. Never really measured it with this car. I know what it's supposed to do based on other cars, but never really measured it. So ambient temp is saying right now, according to the car, 26 degrees roughly. ROM radar is saying 28 degrees intake temp. So I'm just gonna do a second gear pull and see how quick the temps rise. It's a little bit wet outside, so gonna have to be a little bit careful. But let me try and do this for you guys. Okay, the logger. I'm gonna wait for the straight section. before peak boost. So we log in and go. Alright. Okay, that's good. Alright, so we'll look at that data in a bit. A little bit scary doing this 100, but Subaru all drive, right? Alright, so we'll pick up in a bit when I look at the data. Alright, so we're back. So let's go over the data. So we're not going to be doing screen capture today, just going to be showing you the screen as always. Alright, so here we go. Okay, I'll try my best to explain it. I'm not going to zoom out. So alright, so here's what we have. In the top here, in the red, we have throttle position, and the white is RPM, so the engine spin. In the second graph here, we have, in the green, we have boost, manifold pressure, and the yellow, we have intake air temperature. So that's what the sensor is actually measuring. So let's start off here. So right when we start the run, wide open throttle, we can see, all right, let's bring this up. We can see that the intake air temp is 27 degrees. So right here, 27 degrees. And then we also have time. Time is the white one going across it. So we started the run at 21.5 seconds into the log. And boost starts to rise. So stay steady here at 27. It's worth mentioning these sensors are very slow reacting. So this is not actually accurate. It's better than what we had before, but not actually accurate. So it takes a while before the sensor responds. As to how long, not sure, but they're not super quick. Anyway, so back to our thing. So 13 pounds, right around, what was that, 4,200. Then we start seeing the temp going up. So we are 28 degrees at 13-ish pounds. Then by the time we get to 5,500 RPM, we're at 31 degrees. And by the time we end the pool, how many seconds in? So 21, so roughly 5.5, 6 seconds in, we already at 35 degrees Celsius. So we saw a raise from 27 to 35. That's at the end of the pool. So that's 8 degrees. But here's what I mean by the sensors are slow responding. So the log continues here. So we let off even here. So you can see at the top here, throttle position is closed. So I let off. But we can still see the air temp rising after I let off. So it was at 35, we go up to 37, and as high as 38. So the sensor took a while to respond to the increasing heat of the turbocharger and the intercooler. So it was still, how we can actually measure it now. So time, it's 27 seconds, and it continued up until, like, call it 28, 29. So 2-second delay. So it was a little bit slow to respond. So from 27 to 30, 11 degrees. So our air temps go up on a second gear pull, roughly, call it 8 seconds as a nice average number. 7 to 8 seconds, we went up by 11 degrees. Throughout a drag pass, it's gonna go up a lot higher than that, because you're on the 2-step, probably a second, 2 seconds, 3, depends on how long it takes. Then you go for first, second, third gear. Usually this car finishes a quarter mile in like top of third gear, for now anyways. So you're looking at least 15 seconds. So who knows what the intake temps are at the end of that. So I do have the water and the ethanol mix in there. I use a variety of mix. I use boost juice, I use ethanol, I use all sorts of stuff. I use some stuff that I mix myself. But the water is being sprayed after the sensor, so the air coming in is, call it 35, 38 degrees, but then it's getting the spray from the water and the ethanol or the methanol mix, so it's being cooled down. But my sensor is before that, so it doesn't measure it. So I'm only measuring the air entering, but not the actual charge temp. So my car may not be seeing that, but as to what it's seeing, I'm not sure. Can we put another sensor? Probably, but then what you have is the effect of, if I put a sensor after the injection of the water and the alcohol, then you have a wet sensor being measured, so it's not exactly accurate either. So for now, we can see that the intercoolers, this small intercooler is tapped. The car would really benefit from a bigger intercooler, or at least a front mount intercooler, but that is part of the reason why I did the alcohol injection, not for power, but just for the simple fact that I know with a smaller turbo, and all of you Subaru guys who know as well, with a smaller turbo, these turbos just pump hot air. That's where the phrase comes from, turbo pumping hot air. That's exactly it. So on a hot day, who knows what exactly the temps would be. So in a case like that, bigger intercooler or alcohol or water injection. More so water. We don't really need the alcohol. The water is what we need for the added cooling. So yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up. So again, the data is super useful. Without the sensor being in the intercooler, I would never know that, because the MAF sensor generally will not be increasing with boost and the effects of compression of air and whatnot. The MAF sensor doesn't know anything is happening, so it's just measuring the air coming in but not the compressed air. So more info, data is power. The more you know, the better you can tune for that. So with that, now I make the changes as to where I feel I want the car to go from here. Again, a bit long-winded, but hopefully you guys learned something, and hopefully I see more people building air intake sensors, speed density kit as some people call it, and keep those Subarus alive. Right, until next time, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys later.